Welcome to The Intentional Way, where literally every moment is a step towards purposeful living. I'm Bryan Hatch, here to explore the power of intention with you. Learn from our guests who embody intentionality. I'm glad you're here with me. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Intentional Way. I'm your host, Bryan Hatch, and I'm so excited. I've actually been looking forward to this interview for quite some time. And the guest we have today is someone that I've gotten to know very closely over the past several years, almost 2 decades now. He's someone that I've admired since the day I met him. And he just portrays goodness and he makes good things happen in this world. Our guest is Rich Wilson. He's a certified financial planner, and that is like the tip of the iceberg. He is an incredible family man, and anybody who has ever met him knows who I'm talking about. He's just an amazing guy. There's much to be said about that, but welcome to the show, Rich.
Oh, thanks, Bryan. You're too kind.
Well, I know you've heard a couple of these episodes before. I love to start off. It just kind of breaks a little bit of the ice. What's something about you that may be a little outlandish, a little out there, something that somebody wouldn't be able to just know about you by looking up your LinkedIn profile?
I play the ukulele.
Oh,
I don't know. It doesn't usually populate the LinkedIn,
I love it.
but I love music and wish I were better at it. But I have taken up the ukulele in about the last year and a half. So figure 4 strings, I could probably hack that.
Yeah. What got you into ukulele?
I've always loved music and I use voice. I sing. My wife plays the piano. All of our kids play a string instrument or did at one point. And I'm like, I love music so much. I think just being busy has kind of put that on the side. And then actually our daughter, Lucy, was taking guitar lessons from James Soul and just having a great time. And in fact, it was so sweet. One Thanksgiving, we were going around the table and we were just saying, who is something or someone that you're thankful for? And she's like, James. And we're like, James, we're like, oh, James, like James Soul. She's like, yeah. We're like, oh, she just admires and loves him, just his persona and all of that. And so I was very impressed by that. And I went a few different times to listen to him and he just is great. And unfortunately, Lucy's not with us anymore. And so I took up her lessons, but I took it up with the ukulele instead of the guitar. Make it a little bit easier on myself.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I know that she played the ukulele. She played many instruments, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, ukulele actually as well, guitar. She sang.
I saw her on the banjo a couple of times.
Yeah, she actually, with her own money, loved music so much, she bought a banjitar.
Banjitar, okay.
So it's play the guitar if it sounds like a banjo.
Okay.
And we still have that, and it's tons of fun.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So then you decided to pick up the ukulele over the last year and a half. And how's that been for you?
It depends if you ask James or if you ask me. He probably would say, wow, it's been a year and a half. Come on. He's been very patient. I've just enjoyed it. For me, it's just used a different part of my brain. And it's been somewhat therapeutic, if I'm being honest. I just love how music can bring emotions and it can kind of move you. I love the fact there's a little bit of difficulty there, but you can do it at your own pace. And I've loved kind of creating some things with that. In fact, I mentioned Lucy, and she had written a song when she was about 12 years old and played it on the ukulele, actually. And recently I added just a little clip to the very end of that and got a chance to put that, and we got it recorded. And yeah, there's probably been some divine intervention there. It has felt very therapeutic, and it's fun just to jam around. Plus, if you're going to go to the beach or something, a ukulele is a lot easier to tug around maybe than a guitar or definitely than a tuba.
Yeah, something a little more portable than all those things. And you have kids that play cello, so that's also a very large instrument comparatively.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our boys.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, Rich, when I think of intentionality, there are many people in my life that I could pinpoint. And I think most people live with intention in areas of their life, but it seems to me that's one of the things I've admired about you since the day I met you, is you decide to be positive. You decide to be joyful. You decide to bring cool elements to whatever conversation you're in. And that has always impressed me. So where did that come from? How did you become that way?
I got to believe it's just probably a little bit just who I am. I have a sweet mother who, at a young age, just encouraged me to just smile to everybody. So I think just the combination, maybe that kind of helped build. And if you're smiling, I found that I ended up talking to more people. Maybe I was a little mischievous looking to some, but for many, it just kind of broke the ice. And I'm a big believer the glass is half full. In fact, it's probably even more than that if I were to get out the measuring cups on that. I just felt grateful. Some experiences I've experienced recently have just helped me to understand the source of my happiness. And I can tell you what it's not, and I can tell you what it is. And that's been really helpful. And it just brings lasting joy. So I would be very ungrateful and dishonest if I didn't have joy just exude from my heart. Because really, I've really just been given so much.
There's certain times when you see people in pictures and you see them smiling and you're like, that's not the way they always are. But you are. The pictures you see of Rich and his family, you're always smiling and always making a difference. So my question around that is, I'm going to go one layer deeper on that. You said it's just the way that I am. What taught you, you said you have a sweet mother, what taught you in your life to look at it more than half full or look at it in a positive light to where you're smiling more often than you're like, this is a bummer, or complaining, or a myriad of other emotions or feelings you have?
I've definitely observed that having a negative outlook on life or being kind of cynical, and there are maybe some attributes to not being naive, but I just haven't seen negativity serve anybody in a positive manner. And I love nature. I love life. I feel like I came to this world rejoicing. And I just feel like within myself, maybe it's a gift. I don't know. Like I said, I use the word innate because I haven't read my own manual. We got kids. I don't even have a manual for my kids either. And I feel like it's definitely has a religious tie. I know whose I am. I'm a child of God. And I was just thinking about this just this morning, just how grateful I am, how honored I am that I can even have that familiar tie. And I want to be happy about it. I want other people to know that they are too. And then you couple that with just growing up, I had a few people that tried to bully me. I wasn't exactly the poster child of the football player. I was probably more accused of a very thin cross-country runner.
Okay.
And so maybe I might have been an easier target. And I just, in feeling some of those feelings of how there might be hurt, I just wanted everyone to have more joy and just be happy. And so I thought, well, it's got to begin with me. At least my little world that I'm going to, my spiritual orbit or my universe. And as I've implemented that, I guess maybe I haven't given much thought to it, but as I'm analyzing now, the question that you've posed, I think I'm recognizing that's probably what it spun into. And then I've just seen the fruits of those labors, that it just, bad situations seem better, or I get through them, I don't know, better. I guess that's a subjective term, but it just seems like it served me better and those around. And then I probably have had people tell me like, oh, you're positive or whatever. And I don't usually see them paying that as a bad thing. And so, yeah, I'm just the guy that's going to be willing to smile and listen. And I'm trying to get better. And I'm enjoying the journey of trying to improve. It's good.
Yeah.
Polishing the shaft is what I like to call it. Just trying to get a little better.
I just want to touch on this briefly. The bullied in high school, were there multiple instances or did you overcome it quickly? I have these notions of what I think you would do, but what was it like? If you could explain maybe one or two of those experiences.
Some of them are like fourth grade, sixth grade. Maybe it might be I was like a sprinter and I would usually win. And I don't really know the other side of it, but just people coming up trying to pick a fight or give me a hard time or bump me out of the way. And I know I've progressed as a human being. I know in your book, people say, never change. I'm like, no, please change. Don't be a seventh grader the whole rest of your life. And so I just realized like, wow, some people have got maybe some anger. I pushed their button somehow and I've tried to analyze, is there an element of truth? Did I actually do something that warranted that? And I just think realizing I'm a firm believer, you just give people a benefit of the doubt. I heard this years ago that if you assume that 60% of the people that you encounter are going through some type of a crisis or difficulty, you're probably aiming low. And so I've just thought, wow, this could be crippling. That could be a really negative viewpoint. I'm just going to see what I can do to get those numbers either lower or just help with a paradigm shift in the mindset. And then others were like in high school where I asked a gal out and didn't know that somebody else wanted to ask. And so then they got a little more vibrato than I do. And I'm not really trying not to be a very contentious person. And so I'm like, well, whatever, I'll call her back and tell her this is what's going on and don't feel bad. If I know I asked first, but you can go with them, not a problem. And then at a football game, they'll throw ice and give you the evil eye and we're going to rough and tumble afterwards. And fortunately, I did have poster child friend who was both a wrestler and a football player sat next to me, says, I got your back. So nothing happened, but just things like that where I'm just going on my merry way and I'm not exactly sure why I need to be somebody's floor mat. And it hasn't happened extensively, but just a few.
Yeah.
And that's just all I needed to pick up on that. I definitely don't want to be that person, and I want to take it the other way and just bring a little bit of smile and happiness and glow to others. Whether I'm effective or not, at least I'm trying, right?
Yeah. That's good. So it occurs to me as I hear you speak about the past, and those were maybe some smaller, some larger instances, significant or less significant, depending on the time of your life. But it sounds like you were pretty aware. You're aware that other things were going on with other people. That seems unique. That seems unique at a young age. I think that there are people that grow into understanding like, oh, there's other people are going through stuff. And that's why they're maybe mean or rude or sad or whatever the case is. Am I accurately saying that you were probably more aware at that younger age?
Yeah, I think so. I think I have a physical attribute that probably draws a little more attention to me maybe than others. And I think that might have created that extra sensitivity to just the human element. And I know that when someone tells me that their brother, their sister, their mom or dad was in an accident or something hurt physically within my body, I don't feel what they feel, but I have pain that actually comes and I'm like, oh, like literally I'm feeling for you. And I don't know if that happens to other people, if that happens to you or others, but I guess I don't know, maybe there's some things floating around underneath that do that to me. But yeah, I think maybe.
I know there's a term for that. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's an empathic, like you can actually feel pain for the people, not the same or the same intensity, but that's a real thing.
Yeah. So consequently, I don't like blood. So sorry about those that donating blood's not my jam. I pass out and get a little squeamish.
Maybe that's where we share a little bit of kinship, because I also feel pain when people talk about pain, and I don't like blood. So that's interesting. Maybe there's a lot of people that don't like blood. Well, Rich, as we are here together, we talk about intentionality. I think in my life, I've seen you be very intentional in the conversations you have, the people, the relationships you have. What's on your mind around the topic? This is why we're here, and this is what people love to hear about.
Yeah. In fact, I loved when you told me about your podcast. I thought that's just wonderful. It's just purpose, intention. We're not just meandering through life. I've just always felt like there's a reason why we're here, because I know that there's a reason why we're here. And I don't want to have a lot of regrets in life. I want to feel like as a husband that I have intention with the relationship with my wife, as a father with my children. At work, I have intention with clients, and that I try to live up and honor what it is, that call or that job title or that profession that I'm doing, and try to really magnify it to the best I possibly can. So as they'd say in the sporting world, you leave it all on the court, you leave it all on the field. I feel like with that as my mindset, then I'll definitely minimize having to feel any regrets. We've got like this cornucopia of things that we can dive into or delve in if we choose to. Some of them are just adulting, as the teens will say these days. Yeah, it's a busy thing to do, but why not do it with intention? And I've been learning how to try to find more balance, because in that process, I think it can harbor feeling inadequate or too much. But I also believe that there's a lot we can do. I think finding the balance between cutting ourselves some slack and not expecting perfectionism is wise, but also not saying, oh, that's just going to be too much work. That's a lot to do. No one can do that. And shortchanging that and having that turn into something like an excuse, when in reality, I believe the mind is extremely powerful. And it's not until you push some of those limits and do what might be deemed as crazy, and you're like, wow, actually, I got a lot further or a lot closer to whatever it was. Man, I wonder if I just do a little bit more where I would arrive. And I believe the individuals that do that, they just open up a whole new space. And those are the ones that you see as massive leaders worldwide. And everyone wants to interview them like, how are you doing this? And it's never like, well, I have this secret magic wand. You didn't get one? Or I've got some superpower. And I think that's why people love these superhero stories, because they just want that. Yet I think we have a lot of that within us. We just are really cutting ourselves short. So I'm trying to find those little nuggets. I'm trying to find those gifts that I've been given that might be different from others, which is wonderful because everybody has them. And I'm just a big encourager of everyone, bring out those gifts. Like, let's share and share alike. I don't need to be like you. Please don't be like me. And life is just great with all of the varieties. And let's not nitpick. Let's just celebrate. Like, that's so cool. Tell me more, just like what you're doing in your podcast. And I've just loved listening to the episodes of all these really just wonderful people. And I feel that they embody exactly what I'm talking about here. They've just found something and they're just exploring and pushing it further and further. And they're realizing, wow, actually, I've got some gifts and some tools in my personal tool chest that I guess the world might call it success. I might have some good results, and good on them. And I just hope any more people do that.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe, follow, and download our episode. Your support allows us to bring more intentional guests just like this, and it means the world to us. Now, let's get back to the episode. So as you say, leave it all in the field. There's enthusiasm and just do everything maybe to the edge of the limit and find out what it's like. How have you done that? Do you have an experience where you've pushed yourself out in some way, shape, or form that makes that apparent?
Yeah. So small little things like the ukulele, I haven't really tried to do that. I wouldn't say that don't record me for any YouTube videos to play on
open mic night. Here we come.
Yeah. You'll get some laughs. It'll turn more into a comedy routine. That was a little bit strenuous at the beginning and kind of pushed through that. That's a small example. At work, we've tried to do a paradigm shift. I think a lot of people, if you say, what would you expect from a financial advisor and or their team, they might give a standard response. We've been trying to provide a higher level of standard of care. We've been trying to find relationality to people so we can turn our industry and maybe all the financial jargon into something that's a little bit more palatable and relatable. We've been trying to peel the onion back, if you will, emotionally. In fact, I tease clients and say we're like a financial psychologist without a couch. But I think we're just going to buy a couch and then we're just going to say we're like a unlicensed financial. But I have actually had some wonderful relationships with clients where I feel like they've expanded, and it's definitely centered around their wealth and their intent. But we've been talking a lot about intentionality with them and what's it all about. That may not be so standard for other folks that are in the same profession. And we just have been pushing those limits and just saying, well, let's just see where that goes. And I really feel like it's opened up all new avenues. And then I'm able to bring some of my personal life experience to them. And I've had conversations that I think I would have never had. And the deepening of the relationship would have never happened had I not pushed it a little bit further.
Okay.
So we continue to do that, and we're going to see where that leads.
What have you heard from clients thus far in this process of digging a little deeper, doing more than a typical financial advising team would do? What are you experiencing from your clients? How would they tell me how you're different than other people?
So first, you should know what our purpose is. Recently, we've hired some coaches, and we just thought we need to get really clear on what it is that we're going to do. And that was part of this pushing the envelope. And did it kind of quickly because had been thinking about it for decades. And so I didn't need to delay any longer. And in that process, we found that our purpose is we empower meaningful lives. That's what we do when we wake up every morning. Now, we happen to do it with finances and investments, but ultimately, we is our whole team coupled with the clients, and we are empowering them because we can't force anybody to do anything, but we're trying to show maybe an additional way or an expansive way or a paradigm shift way, because I believe a lot of people just get in the old, they call it the conveyor belt routine. You just go to work, earn money, you try to save money, throw it over your shoulder and hope that certain things happen. And we want to just be holding people more accountable. Tell us a little more, like you're doing here. Tell me a little more about that. Dig a little deeper, peel the onion back. And we're empowering meaningful lives, and meaning is going to be different for everybody. That's why my job is so fun. I love it because every day can be different. I might have 3 conversations about one genre area and then this totally different one because I'm trying to find out what their meaning is. I'm trying to hold clients accountable to both define what meaning is and let me know what it is that they're doing towards that goal. Now, that's definitely not in the certified financial planner definition of these are the things you have to do. But we found that it's been very effective because if we're going to help manage the money and create clarity, we kind of need to know what it's all about for them. And then the last thing is lives, and it's plural on purpose because it's not just our clients, but it's also their children and their grandchildren. It's multi-generations. And it's really just any and everybody that we would interact with, whether it's a specialist on our team, whether it's a client, whether it's us. It's just a whole global thing. Everyone's invited to, we want everyone to find meaning. And I believe that as we do that in our small little area of the world, it's just going to help change the world. Everyone's complaining these days about, oh my heavens, the world. And yeah, once again, you can go very easily glasses half full, quarter full, maybe even smaller, or we can just start doing stuff that are positive. And I don't have all the solutions, but we're just trying to push that a little bit further. And so as we've interviewed and told clients our purpose and asked them what finds meaning, or if they're philanthropic, or what are some things that you care about, what's top of mind, we've uncovered all sorts of things. And then if we've shared back and forth, it's even peeled it back even more. And I feel like clients have felt more heard. And then to answer the last part of your question, we've been asking them to send us a picture of them with something that they've always wanted to do, whether it's a dream, whether it's just like, yeah, I've just always talked about it. And if in any way our team has been effective in helping them to do that, would you just capture that, send it to us? We put it on a PowerPoint. And then during our quarterly strategic meetings, we look at those pictures and it just reminds us, this is how we can capture, to the best we've come up with so far, our clients having meaning. And it may look like paying off their mortgage, picture of them in front of their house. We had a really cute incident where a grandmother wanted this multi-generational saving focus for kind of her legacy. And we'd given them a small piggy bank. And there was actually 3 generations in our office. And we gave her like the first few coins to put in. And she just took a picture of her granddaughter, her cute little hand, putting money into the piggy bank. And she was brought to tears. She's just like, I've always wanted to do this. I just want to make sure that my daughter and my grandchildren save money, because it just wasn't something that I grew up doing. So we're going to discover more and more things of how we're providing meaning. But what really is happening is these clients themselves are really the ones finding the meaning. We're just helping to coach them along, just to ask a few follow-up questions. And I believe there's power in words, and some of your other guests have said that. Firm believer of that. And I just think little by little, that's going to help people find meaning. And when we have a society of meaning-filled individuals, then I think greater things are going to happen, and a lot less of the whining and the complaining and the small thinking and the can't do. A lot of that will be diminished.
It seems to me like your clients would feel a lot more connected to you. I can imagine in the financial world, I am imagining, I don't know everything about it, that it would be transactional and set this thing up, do this thing and make it happen or grow it, but to make it connect to human beings and having a connection with you guys because you're after what they're dreaming and what they're wanting to accomplish. It seems really connective compared to transactional. Lots of businesses, not just your industry, but lots of industries that are like that. It's very transactional, and it's not really connective, but it sounds really useful what you're doing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, relational is what we're seeking. I believe there's a difference between a customer and a client. And we've always coached our staff that customers are more the transactional and a client's more relational. And there will be some transactions naturally.
Sure.
But really our focus, once again, with our purpose being we empower meaningful lives, that shouldn't sound transactional. It's very, we're all in and we're here for you. We've had some real tearjerker conversations where there's been some strain with couples. There's been some difficult things, but we've seen a lot of people that have felt released. Like, well, I just always felt like I didn't have a voice. And we just have really encouraged people sharing passwords, tiling of accounts, and just talking through. And, well, how do you feel about that? And not always just asking one of the two in the couple, but both. Okay, you said that. Do you feel the same way? And sometimes the other spouse is like, I didn't know you felt that way about this. And so sometimes we're like, do you need a moment? But I just feel like that, little by little, we're creating more and more meaning. And we're just hoping that will then not only transcend that couple, but that'll get shared on many other generations. We really are trying to encourage people to be philanthropic and just to think a little bit further out. And that also has been very effective when they realize, oh yeah, I'm not going to need all of this money. And many are just feeling like, I don't know if I'll have enough. And then when we do planning and they realize, okay, you guys have totally checked the box, like we're going to have enough. And then we can start to say, okay, now what? And push a little bit further. It's a whole nother gear that they just haven't got into. And it's just really, for me, that's a lot of the satisfaction of the job, is just seeing people change into a better them. And you can just see like the neurons just moving around and like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that one existed or that could happen. It's really fun. It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And you're right. That probably hopefully leads to a stronger connection, stronger bond.
Yeah. But in the most sincere way. That's what I love about intention. I hope that other people hear, I can hear that in the understanding of finding meaning and finding what matters to them and connecting that to what you're doing for them seems sincere. If you just did it as a tactic, if you just did it as like, okay, we're going to do these, check these boxes so that we're going to find out their goal and then we're going to tie it to, like, if you go about these things in a very transactional way as well. And that's, again, what it comes down to is intentionality. Maybe the way that I would extrapolate some of what you said is it's creating and connecting the meaning to what matters most. And then with the sincerity, man, magic happens from that. That's my opinion about it anyways.
Yeah.
That's my experience as well. When there is a true connection and a sincerity in that finding out, not just, my boss told me to ask these 17 questions, so I'm asking them to you. What do you want to, there's a reason for it. It creates something different. It really does.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And people can smell the lack of sincerity a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, everything has to jive. It really has to tie into our purpose. So yeah, well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
That's cool. I know I've experienced you a lot more in family life. That's my connection to you. We are family, for anybody that's listening doesn't know that. I have seen you create some amazing things, and I feel like your kids really connect with you well. I feel like your family is tight, and I'm not saying your family doesn't have challenges. I'm sure it does, just like every family.
Yeah.
What got you to focus in on that realm of your life so intentionally?
When I was serving a mission in Brazil, and I can't remember what stroked this idea, but I started what I call a daddy book. In fact, I don't know if I've even told you about this.
No.
So I didn't bring it here today, but I collected things that I observed while I was serving in the Brazil Manaus mission to do and not to do. I think someone had said, when you go on a mission, you mature like almost 30 or 40 years.
Huh.
If you try to and try to pay attention. So I jotted down things like, I'd see these couple interactions, or I'd see these traditions that people would do, or I'd see where they would interact, or I would hear things in a conference talk, or someone would say something. And when I was done, I had 111 things that I wanted them to do in the course of my life. And they weren't all going to happen like within the first year of coming back. And some of them I'm still working on, but I'm happy to report I've done most of them. I think I've done like either 87 or 88 of them. And some of them are really simple, but they were very meaningful and they were very family oriented. One of which was on the night of our honeymoon, when we left everybody, came home, I would carry my wife over the doorway and we would kneel and have our first family prayer. That was the first thing that we would do as a couple. We're going to need God as part of our relationship, our power triangle, my wife and I and God. And we did. We did that. And I feel like that kind of helped set the tone. It also helps to just marry one of the best people in the whole world. My wife, Mary Jane, is just delightful. She's probably 60% of the relationship. I'm just the other 40.
It still works. Yeah.
It works. So gracious. And her being so inspiring, easygoing, easy to live with, but yet so beneficial and yet outgoing. It just has all these right attributes. And so I think it just has helped us to be able to do a lot of the things that we've decided to do and plan to do. We do executive councils. I'll share a quick story. When our son Clark was in the 9th grade, I used to play early morning basketball. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, it was like my way to get my exercise because I had to be at work early in the morning. And one day I just felt impressed that I needed to stop doing that and that I needed to spend more time at home in the morning because I'm going to have teenagers. I had teenagers at the time. And that it'd be important that I'm there and getting reps with them and spending more time. And so it's like, wow, really? Okay, I got to find a way to sweat and burn calories another way. And we did find a way. So I shifted from that. And then I started walking with my lovely wife 3 days a week. We'd go walking our neighborhood, just under 3 miles. And that became our executive family council meetings, where we would talk about the day. We talk about our children, our relationship, what are some things we need to get accomplished. And it really helped flourish. And so that was like a byproduct that wasn't the original intention, but it ended up being a byproduct. And then, of course, our kids got older and they were teens. Yes, we have had trials and tribulations along the way, right? That's part of this unseen manual that no one seems to have, but I'm sure it's in those chapters.
Yeah.
And then tragedy struck our house. And it'll be here next month, just in a few days. Our sweet middle child, Lucy, passed away at the young age of 17 2 years ago. And as I look back on that, and there's a few other things that we did that I'll share as well, as I've seen really the Lord's hand in all things and this kind of daddy's book come together, I feel like there's no way I can take credit for all of these things. I feel like God has inspired me. I believe he is willing to sit cockpit. Sometimes he sits in the captain chair for us. At times it feels like when we just feel numb and can't do things. He's just always there to help us out. I just feel like he's helped to inspire. His fingerprints are just all over. But I realize now that spending those early mornings with my teens in particular, and maybe there's more I'll learn, it just gave me more time with my sweet Lucy. We only had her for 17 years and a few months. And it's a terribly tragic thing. And everybody says no parent should bury their child, all that. Exactly. But one of the other things that we had done was we had chosen to travel a lot as a family, to pull our kids away from their friends intentionally, because it's about the only time we could get them to that. We tried to mitigate their social media and phones and just pull them away and just spend time with them. And everywhere we went, we would always perform some service, multiple things. We just wanted to give them exposure and just realize the world is just a beautiful place with beautiful culture and tasty food and architecture and history. And they're funny and they're quirky, and some people can be mean at times, probably because they're going through something, right? But they can just see it all and just realize, wow, your family's totally behind you. This is what we're really about. It's just like this really huge family. And we were able to go on several trips. One of those trips, we were able to tour. I served in the Brazil Manaus mission. And at that time, Lucy was 11, and they just had a delightful time. I guess this is another thing people wouldn't know necessarily about me, but I've spoken Portuguese to our children since I returned from the mission field. I decided that was also my daddy book to speak since birth. And I think after 2 months, I started because I was like, oh, I have a new baby. Oh yeah, I got to do this speak Portuguese thing. And so our children have learned Portuguese. So when we went to Brazil, and we've been a few times, it was far more enriching for them. They understood what people were talking about. And one delightful Hilton, who was a bishop, minister there, he had asked me to speak, and he was just so kind and without all the details, basically just was graciously thanking me for taking time to come from America and to serve him at an important time in his life. And now he's helping other people, and he just really it changed the trajectory of his life, he said. And so after church was done and we got in the car, Lucy just said, Dad, I want to go on a mission too. I just see what happened. Dad, if you hadn't done that, who knows what this life would be? And that is just so awesome. I want to do that for other people. And although Lucy didn't get a chance here in mortality to do that, sacred experiences that I've had have let me know that she's doing that now. And in fact, even in Brazil, because people knew at school that she spoke Portuguese. And so one of her friends actually is in the Brazil Manaus mission. And he actually called me up and he just said that whenever we see butterflies, that kind of reminds us of Lucy. I know many others might be like that as well, but he was struggling and had just arrived in the area. And right as he got off the bus, he saw like 100 butterflies just floating around and just knew that Lucy was going to be there to help him with his Portuguese and help him serve. And there's just been several others. So I've just learned from that experience that people want to do things, and sometimes the way that it's stated doesn't necessarily happen the way that we thought. But it doesn't mean that the desire to do those things doesn't get fulfilled. It may just be in a different realm.
Yeah.
And so that's just been really part of what keeps a smile on my face, keeps hope in my heart. And I just feel the love of God just caring for her on the other side. And I just know that she's just a lovable, sweet person as she is, doing it there. And we just pray for her every day. And it's just been really tender. So Lucy's in her 17 years taught me so much. And it's probably tenderized my heart going from child to parent instead of the other way. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful.
Well, you've said much, and I think of the many things. If I'm looking at the daddy book that that's what you call it, daddy book?
Yeah.
Yeah. The 111 things. It sounds like you've done many of those. It sounds like you've recounted a few of them. And there's so many things that you just said that I don't want to skip over, so many important things. But I do want to ask a couple questions before I go on with other questions that are on my mind. You said that there was a time when you felt like you should be at home during the mornings. I'm just interested in the intentionality of that. How did you come to conclude that? Where did that come from? How did you gain that insight in your life?
Well, I believe it came from God, Him knowing more, as always, in our lives than what I knew. I think I had started to sense that maybe my wife felt like she might be taking a little bit more of the brunt of the morning kind of routine. My job does start early. And
Which,
at that particular time, I was starting like at 7:30, but I was in Scottsdale, so I had to
yeah,
drive and commute to get there. I just being honest with myself, being honest with my wife, realizing it's really easy to slip into a selfish mindset. It's probably more of the human nature of it all. And the Lord was able to, in his own kind way, say, I want to give some thought to this. And so just seeing that and realizing, yeah, I probably would regret having a prompting, not following it, and then later finding, oh, you know what? Having 6 more meetings or making more money or having my basketball game just be awesome or having my waistline. I wasn't thinking about these things, but whatever someone might conjure up, that would never surpass or be better than just following that prompting and seeing where it led. And now with hindsight, oh my heavens, I'm so glad that I didn't brush that one off. And I
yeah.
have others. I try not to, but that one I didn't. And so I think it's probably a combination of those things.
I think it's interesting, the word prompting, right? And some may be more familiarized. I think the ones that are more familiarized with that statement may not have looked into that. Like I think of a prompter, right? I'm prompting you to say these words, so then you're going to
Yes.
say these words. That's how I think of it, and that may be how you experience it, but it sounded like maybe it was a generalized, like it kind of layers, like you felt this way, then maybe your wife explained a couple things, and then you thought about it some more, or was there some different experience? I like to clarify specifics because I think that helps our listeners find those areas in their life of when they've been prompted or they've been pushed to do something. Would you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. And it's been several years
Yeah.
now, but I would
Yeah.
say that's right. I believe that it came up in conversation with my wife and I. And as I analyzed that and took that to prayer and kind of thought about it, I think probably the intensity, the impression, if you want to use that word, the circling around the mind, one's voice in their mind came around and said, yeah, you should do that. And then for me, sometimes it might even just be a sensation in the heart or a tingliness or a, yep. If you've ever played the game Hot or Cold or the games where you clap louder when someone gets closer to the object, it just the intensity was getting a, beep, 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 beep. And you're like, okay, it's right here, right? A little bit of that kind of happened. But I believe it would be collecting probably 1 or 2 things from sources that I love and care for, like my wife, or just analyzing it. And then as I probably problem solve in my mind, what would that look like? Okay, if I didn't do that, oh man, and just got beyond that. And then just realized, well, what would be some of the other benefits from that? Because I'm kind of an analytical thinker, kind of a combination of all that. So it wasn't just like a lightning moment, but it was probably some prep work for my
Yeah.
wife.
Yeah.
Many wives do a good job
Yeah. That's good.
doing that. And
Yeah.
sometimes we can be stubborn as husbands.
Yeah, that's okay. And so that's an interesting, like there was feedback that you had internally, externally that you worked through, but then still when we come back to the intentionality piece, you and I both believe that there is a God, there's a power outside of us that actually pushes us to do good in the world.
Yeah.
But independent of that thought, knowing that's how I see it, maybe that's how you see it, in the intention of it, you had the idea of, I should probably be home in the mornings, or it came to you or it was prompted you to do this. But you didn't always see the outcome. You might have thought, okay, I'm going to follow this feeling that I'm going to do this. And there may have been immediate, oh, I get to talk to my wife 3 times a week. We're on walks. There's immediate consequences that are beneficial, but there's also things you can't know. Like you said, look now, like today, looking back all those years ago, man, if you had had that time with specifically Lucy, all of your kids matter the same as Lucy matters, but having her not be here is easy to look back with regret. And it sounds like in this case, you don't need to do that.
No, I don't. I'm so grateful for that. There's the difference between wisdom and knowledge. And I think a lot of times our world talks a lot about knowledge, but I believe God, ultimate source of wisdom. And I would hope that I'm getting better at, but I would always want to be taking that. Yeah. So there's a little bit of faith there. And it's part of the genius of it all. It's almost a little bit of the magic or the secret Thai sauce. It just kind of, let's see where it goes. Like I was saying earlier, when you just push the envelope, you're never going to know what's on the other side of the door until you open it. or at least crack it open and take a peek see. And I just think that in our lives, we need to, not to the extent that we're like lawless, but in areas that are very lawful, that we can just, let's just see what happens, because we might find a better world than we were creating, which is the simpler version, right?
Mhm.
That's why there's things in technology 2.0, 3.0, 5G, 6G, kind of a similar analysis or ideology, I believe.
Yeah.
But it does take a little bit of leap of faith. It does take a little more effort. That is, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. And I just got to believe there's got to be more out there, and I'm willing to explore. And
Yeah.
I found a few nuggets out there so far.
Yeah. So in this instance, there are many things to talk about, right? I'm just
Yeah.
taking these little ones that you have. But in this instance, maybe the theme of going all in, put both feet in as opposed to dabble or put a toe in the water and kind of think, it's a possible outcome. Hey, you should be home more often in the morning. Okay, I'm going to be home, but I'm going to be sleeping in the first hour. There are other ways that you could be home and not give it all you got. And I think that may be a theme that I would transpose onto your life of Rich just finds a way to be all in wherever he's at. Wherever he's at is just be all the way there.
Yeah, kind of the commitment. I like to be, because I'm sure there's areas that I'm not, but yeah, you're going to get better results when you do that, for sure, in anything in life.
Yeah.
And that commitment.
Well, Rich, I can't go any further without really delving into the Lucy situation. And it's a sensitive topic, and I want to go where you want to go with it.
Sure.
But what would you have us know? To lose a daughter, I'm close to you. I've seen what you've been through from my small third-party perspective. And man, it's inspiring and also painful. So what would you have us know about that in the vein of intentionality? There's so much that can be said about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just a huge ocean of emotion. For me and my lovely wife, I know a lot of times when it comes with loss or trauma or things of extremity, it can go one of two ways. And fortunately for us, it's brought us closer together as a couple. Lucy was a tender soul. As we watched just videos and stuff from her in the past, she was very kind of calculate the room. She's a help the one that's one off, or the cipher in the snow, or the take it upon herself to help somebody in a math class that doesn't necessarily seem by the naked eye to be fitting in, and would come in and, good morning, sunshine. How you doing? Okay, did you get this stuff done? That we didn't get a chance to find out until after she passed away, and people would share those stories with us. It would inspire us and let us just know, oh my gosh, even better. Very tough to physically not have that being in our life that we can just hug and embrace, that we can see, who wanted to have lots of children, and consequently for us it would be grandchildren, and to go through school and all that. For Lucy, a lot of it was around anxiety, and unfortunately for her, she was a teenager right when COVID hit. And so that unfortunately exacerbated a little bit more around some social anxiety. But truth be told, we don't know fully what it was. I think even with neuroscience, we might find that veins or something are closer to others, and maybe the way that things are constructed, more pressure or whatever, I don't even know. But I will share this, and this was probably one of the key pinnacle things that Lucy gave me 2 days after her passing. I had a lucid dream, and in that dream, Lucy came to me and just said, Dad, I don't want you to try to figure all this out. Just be at peace. I love you. I love Mom. I love the family. I am totally okay. This is all going to work out, and it's going to be okay. In fact, that was the name of the song that she wrote when she was 11, turning 12, on a ukulele in her own little room. It's actually on YouTube and Spotify.
We'll link to it for sure.
It'll all be okay. And when we listen to those lyrics now, and I don't know that obviously it wasn't what happened then and what happened now. I don't know there's a huge connection, but we're choosing to see the connection and the blessing that it is okay. And that is what really brings me joy, is knowing that, and this is going to be very spiritual sounding, but Jesus is the Christ. He has been resurrected, and we will all be resurrected. My family and I will see, not just see, because that probably won't be enough for me. We will be able to embrace, live with, be around, not be parted from Lucy ever again when that happens, with better bodies than we have now. And for me, it's like, wow, that's like the hugest gift I can't be a complainer. I can't be down. I'm not trying to sound trite or take it away. It is very irritating and painful and just all the negative attributes you could think of as it pertains around losing Lucy. But nothing brings it back by feeling mean or bad about it. But through Jesus Christ, she comes back to us and we get united with her. And that is the reason why I'm happy. I spoke in church on Easter, the Easter right after she had passed away. And that was probably one of the most spiritual experiences of my whole life, as I just felt the Savior remind me that's exactly why he came to this earth and had all these things that were way unfair. A really nice guy, a really nice human being that was trying to be kind, help people think higher, and how do they treat him? And it's just, that's the stuff that just sticks to me. And it just gives me everything that I need to move forward. And man, you ebb and flow and you have tough moments. And because Lucy was just so sweet, but it's really helping. And it's made me be more vigilant and sensitive to others that are going through similar loss, just anything, whether it's divorce or maybe it's their parent passed away or it's a chronic illness, Alzheimer's, whatever it is, just when life is just tough and you're just like, I don't like this. This is very hard. This is unfair, whatever it might be. And I'm grateful for the fact that I've been able to kind of have those feelings a little bit more and to be more sensitive to that, because I want to be there for people and I want to help in any way. And for all the loving people that have helped and did help, angels, they're just messengers of goodness through an ice chest full of Gatorades and water to a shoulder to cry on, or someone just to come by and don't say anything and just hold their hands. In fact, that's one thing I would say to anybody. Don't not do anything, but don't try to solve. Just show up and just sit there. And if they ask for advice or whatever, give it to them, but don't elicit it. At least that's been our experience. And it's amazing to continue to experience the ebbs and flows of the painful, unexpected, and try to find joy through it all. And I firmly believe, and this isn't going to be true, everyone's not going to be able to maybe have this experience. I hope they can. But with we'll call it the glass half full kind of mindset, or the, what can I learn from this? How can this tragedy be an eternal blessing for me? Mindset has been way helpful. And I feel deeply for those that have had similar or maybe even worse situations and it hasn't been, or they haven't found that yet or whatever, because I just can't imagine how much harder that would make it. But humans are wonderful. We're all family. And for me, that has just brought the most joy. Find those smiles in those frowny people, get those smiles to come out, whether they're international or here in town, is so important. And I would just tell everybody that you got to get it right with your family. You don't need to go to Kilimanjaro or Brazil or whatever to try to find that happiness right now. Sometimes it might get you into that gear right here in your living room, in your family room, your parents. And I've just found that it's helped me. I've been trying to heal all my relationships. Anything that I feel like is not where I want it to be, or I wanted to explore to get it higher, this situation that's happened has encouraged me to push for better relationship, more intentionality.
When I think about what you've gone through, like, it's definitely a choice to feel the way you do. And I recognize that there may be help and connection and family and God that's helping you see it that way. But it's still a choice. It's still a choosing. And that is intentionality, is taking a perspective and an angle and a vision and going after it, as opposed to just letting things go as they are. I recall those first few days, and you're just incredible people. Of all the questions I could ask, I think the one that is most meaningful and hopefully would answer a question for a lot of people, I think you and your family are uniquely qualified to answer this question. And I recognize that this question I'm going to ask you may not seem fair or may not seem something that is answerable, but you guys are good people by all standards. I don't care who, would evaluate the Wilson family, but if anybody looks at the Wilson family and doesn't see good people, I'd be hard-pressed to believe that they even know you. So I precursor that with, why do such hard things, challenging things, unexpected things happen to so good people?
Yeah, it's been kind of an old age question, right? That people
Yeah.
kind of struggle with.
I recognize your answer may not answer it for everybody, but for you, I still think it's important to contemplate.
Yeah, I've given some thought, and obviously in reading scripture and listening to others, I don't know that necessarily being good or striving to be good guarantees that nothing bad can happen.
Case in point.
I think that's why we come around to that question so many times, like, how can that be? Job, it talks about that. He was a pretty good guy, I'd say, right? His friends are like, oh, he must have done something bad, right? Those were cultural situations. That's all that their social constructs knew at the time and kind of call them out. I think we make the assumption that only good things can happen to good people. As soon as we remove that out and that no longer becomes the law, I think all of a sudden you realize, oh, well, if that's not the law, then what is? Maybe that's a better question. And as we explore that, you realize, number one, we all have something called choice or agency. So we all get to choose what we want to do. Many times or sometimes we don't probably make the best choices, and there are outcomes that just come because of our choice. Sometimes somebody else makes a choice and they come into our lane of traffic, and so then that can create that. So you can be a perfectly, we'll call it a good person, whereas we just stereotype that, and someone can crash into your car and take your life, or maybe for the rest of your life. And it wasn't that you being good puts this protective shield around you so that other people exercising their choice or agency can some be deflected. And I recognize that in some instances, people have had that protection. So the answer that I've come to at this point in my life is that, and I don't believe that God picks and chooses his favorites and like spares this person because they were better. It's not a degree of better and worse. It's not. He loves us all the same. It'd be like saying, which of your children are you willing to take on the family vacation and not, or whatever, some extreme.
Yeah.
You don't. Like, love is just like this everywhere thing. Certain people, if we're here and we're trying to become something elevated and higher and holier, and there's this journey in between with the gifts and talents that people have along the way, certain experiences are going to aid in that effort that may be viewed as a tougher lot, unfair, that shouldn't have happened. But that's because we don't know the potential of that person. We don't really know fully, we'll call it the reward in the end. We have some verbs and adjectives that we use to get ourselves there, but we don't really know. I believe when we finally know, we'll realize, oh, even some of the craziest, saddest things that have happened will pale in comparison to the reward and the eternalness of that. And so I think part of it just starts with, we've set ourselves at a disadvantage by us defining and making the rules. And so our minds are like, well, with those being the rules, this doesn't seem right. And I recognize that's not the complete answer, but I've started there and that's helped me to put it together. And I just feel like I've learned lots of things from this experience that maybe somebody else maybe already knew and maybe wouldn't learn. It's not all just about learning, but it's just that there's lots of components to it. And I am okay with that because I feel like I've become a better person. I feel like I've become and continue to strive to be more sensitive. And I think all of those things are way beneficial. And if I'm going to put them on a scale, am I going to say, hey, you get loose, you do that? I'm not going to do that because why would I do that? That's not a healthy exercise.
Yeah.
The things I know is that Lucy is a wonderful, tender, sweet individual that I love, will love, always will love. I will be reunited. It will be sweeter and more joyous than any of these pains and sorrows I experience now. And I've got that. And I can choose to build upon that foundation of future gloriousness, or I can meander around and just, this is so unfair. And I just don't see that serving me. I just
Yeah.
really don't. I don't think it serves anybody. And so, I don't know, that's a long, multi-jointed answer to your question. There's just not a 3-sentence answer to it. But I think our premise is probably our first
Yeah.
thing that needs to shift.
It's a beautiful answer. It's almost perfect because what I love in thinking about intentionality, words matter, is question the question sometimes.
Yeah.
Meaning you've looked at the premise of the question saying, we're not after the right thing in the question. You're not after being through what you've been through and seeing the way you see it. I think that's super useful for the rest of us to look at and say, sometimes when we ask questions that, like you said, you might wallow in the struggle or the heartache, and that is a lose-lose situation. So why continue to push yourself into that scenario as opposed to see it differently? It doesn't mean there isn't hurt. Doesn't mean there isn't
That's right.
struggle or challenge. No.
Like there is.
Yeah,
There are those things.
for sure. But it's more of asking the right question is the far better place to start. And I truly believe that everybody has to have experiences. Not everybody's going to have the same experiences, but everybody has to have experiences that have them question things, have them bring them to their knees. I'm not wishing pain on everybody, but this life, if you were born and you live, you're going to have some challenging experiences.
That's right.
Amen. You will. I don't care who you are. I don't care how old you are. There's going to be something in your life that is challenging at the level that you are. If you're 5 years old, we have a friend that her son passed away at 5 years old. That's difficult, right? But in his 5 years, he experienced his own difficult at a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 3-year-old level.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's equivalent to an 80-year-old level, but it's what it was. And so sometimes when we think of it that way and realize that it's just, this whole experience is to help us improve, progress.
Yeah.
And that's not without struggle.
Yeah. Someone shared the quote with me a few years ago, and they said there's no comfort in the growth zone and there's no growth in the comfort zone. And really, if you're honest with yourself and you look back in your life, the things that you remember the most, that you recall, were usually traumatic. They're usually some shock and awe, is the hard stuff. And I know you've had some guests on before that were really athletic. You don't grow muscle. Why do our muscles have to be sore after we work out? We could ask that question too, right? To do anything to push beyond, you're going to have that. But you get to the top of a mountain and you look down and hopefully you're like, whoa, this is so picturesque, so beautiful. I never would have saw this at the base of the mountain or in my house or on the couch. And that is true. You would not have done that. And yeah, the hike was sweaty and maybe you got a few blisters or whatever, but then you have that. And there's something I think neurologically that just helps reiterate our brains like, yep, that's right. That's not a bad thing. This is a good thing. We get those little maybe dopamine hits and we get kind of reassurance that, yeah, it's okay. You can do hard things. And then look, this is the vista. And I guess that's what I'm speaking to is I believe that the joy will outpace the bitterness of all of that, because in the end, light is more powerful than darkness and they can't coexist. So I think as soon as those lights are on and that the glory is there and all of the dark, negative, painful things, they can just go away. And then we'll just be like, okay, I can be okay with that. And I think the scale that some people may, if we're going to, I don't know why we do this, get out our clipboards in life and like, oh, this person has this trial, that's a 6. It's kind of like, why do we do this? It doesn't need to have a scale of 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, but if you line them up there and you say hey, this person's had a bunch of 8s or whatever, like why do they have to have that? It's not servicing anybody, not serving us at all. Just know they're going to be there. And I love the podcast about the intentional way. Just change the mindset to say, well, let's just do things that we always wanted to do. Let's see about who we have a relationship with, family, friends, for a church colony, or whatever it might be. How are we doing? That should be your clipboard. What's my inventory going on there? And then just strive to improve. Pick a few and do a few, and then let's talk again. And let's just, how you feeling? You feeling better or worse? Just maybe do that instead of, we just need to maybe change our clipboard titling at the top. It might be helpful.
Instead of looking outward, look inward.
Yes, I'm going to be surprised. I bet, because my personal life experience when I've done that way, you just end up turning into a much better person. That you're like, yeah, if we're being honest with ourselves, we're going to go back and say, yeah, I shouldn't be just hanging on the couch or just letting everybody else do all the hard work for a project or going camping or whatever. Just let everybody else put up the tent. And it's good to be in a community and work together, celebrate together. Nobody wants to hike the mountain by themselves. Go with 50 of your friends and then just take a bunch of pictures like we did this. And then what are we going to do next? Way more exciting. And maybe the intentionality is spending more time together with friends or family or having better health or just doing something that you've never done before or whatever it is. Just change our clipboard and get some better kind of checklist items on there that are going to serve us better.
Yeah.
Not tear us down.
So what's on your clipboard?
Traveling internationally every year. Ghana is on our clipboard. I feel
that's
impressed to go to Ghana with our family. I've got several, maybe some I can't share, but continuing to strengthen a relationship with my wife so she just feels like she is the most important person in the world to me because she is. And that anything that she has, any weaknesses that she may feel, whether they're recognized or not recognized, don't mean anything. She's awesome. And strengthening bonds with my children, being there for, we have one grandbaby now, or grandparents. My gray hair, I've caught up to that so I can justify it. And I've got a few other items on my daddy list that I want to still fulfill, serving some missions, continuing to find purpose there. There's some people I just feel like in my heart that I've yet to meet out there that I need to strive to impact or to enlighten and be enlightened by them, which is part of the reason why we travel internationally. We're heading to Italy actually in October. I just love people. I love what they are trying to do, selfishly what they offer me with their goodness and their intellect and their brightness and just their perspective. I just feel like it helps to complete me a little bit better. We've tried to pick up little things everywhere we travel. Like right now, we put for oil inside of our cookies. We always use coconut oil now. We went to Hawaii a few years back and had some pancakes. We're like, man, this is so good. So now chocolate chip cookies, everything's got coconut oil. And I know they say that it's kind of healthier. Some of just the architecture at our house, some of the gardening that we've done. We're big gardeners with Belgian trellises. We just want to have beauty abound because we want our insides to try to reflect our outsides. And so if we can get the outsides even more beautiful, maybe it just gets the insides more. We're giving it a whirl. Or maybe scientists will find out that's true. I don't know. But we think it is.
It's awesome.
We're just trying stuff, but probably just loving humans better. And one of the big ones I mentioned earlier is our practice. We're trying to just help people find meaning. I just feel like there are a lot of people that are hurting and don't want to admit it, or they're hurting and they want to tell someone, but they don't know who to tell, or they're just embarrassed to do that. And so I'm just trying to find ways, and I'm not asking for them to disclose to me, but if I can say things that can help take a few rocks out of their backpack and lighten their load and empower them. I will tell you one thing that we're doing right now with clients is, and this is for those that have some extra discretionary income. At our family, we started this 16, 26, 66 grow your inheritance concept. And what it is, there were lots of sixes at the time. The government keeps changing the rules, but when our children turn 16, they're legally able to get a job. We want to strongly encourage that. I think work ethic is becoming a dying art. And so we match them. So if they go and work and they make $4,000, we put $4,000 into a Roth IRA for them. So we can do that legally. So you parents out there that maybe your income's high enough where you can't, well, hey, you can put it into a Roth IRA to just be for your children. And the thought occurred to me when I was driving to work a few years back where I thought it's common in our culture to, you pass away and your children just inherit your wealth. By the way, I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm a bigger fan of along the way and kind of help. Don't remove all the obstacles, not like what they call it, the lawnmower parent, where you're cutting the grass in front of your kids, it's just perfect and they can just walk over it. You're doing them a disservice. I can just tell you that right now from lots of experiences I've seen. But just trying to find ways along the way. But why not give them a small amount of inheritance now and then teach them principles of investing and taxes and tax-free growth and have some intentionality? We're trying to turn them into like better creatures that are going to help our society be better. My answer is yes. So that's what spurred the idea. And then I tried to find a legal way that you can actually do it. And so when they're 16, we match them, and we match it until age 26. So in 10 years. The genius behind that is those are usually the years where they don't make a lot of money, so they're eligible for Roth. Number two, they're not really good at saving necessarily, or they are a little bit, and they could probably use that to get a head start. And mathematically, if you get started earlier with time value of money, So you get those more years of doubling, right? Rule of
Mhm.
72. So we matched from those. We didn't want to do it until they got married because we didn't want to discourage them from getting married. Like, oh, if I get married to you, my parents aren't going to give me $7,000. So we matched it up to the maximum amount, which is $7,000 today for someone that's 49 years or below. And so that's all put together. And then at 66, they'll have a certain number, which is typically when people might be retiring. Maybe be later in the future if people live longer. And so that's why we came up with all of that. But basically, if you do that, and that's if just the parents just put it in as an example, and the children don't do any, we'd hope that the children would take the torch and
Yeah.
take it from beyond there. They would have like $2.7 million in a tax-free Roth IRA if they made 8%.
Wow.
And if they made 10, it would be like 3.4 million. And if they added money, it'd be even more. Now, granted, to be fair, $3 million 50 years from now or whatever, 40 years from now is like maybe $900,000 today. But I don't know of anybody that would be like, yeah, I don't need
No,
$900,000 in a Roth IRA. But it's a small way, right? What the children are seeing is they're seeing small kind of gifts of matching with a lesson wrapped around it. And then you're teaching them to fish, right? There's that adage. Well, let's do something about it rather than just talk about it.
Mhm.
And then you're helping them really create this legacy that hopefully will perpetuate itself. That might inspire them to do that with their children, your grandchildren, maybe even other people in other ways. So that's one example of something that we're doing with intentionality in our practice. And the other is we're just encouraging people. We just ask them, are you philanthropic? What are the things that you care about? And we'll use like donor advised funds and things like that to teach their children as well, get them involved. What are some things that we as a family care about? So like with our family, we sit down with them. I went to a planning and gifting conference and they had these 4-inch by 4-inch cards, and on those had all these different charitable endeavors. It was hunger or battered children or women or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And we hand them out to the kids in our annual little conference, and they pick their top 3, and then we reshuffle the top 3, and then we find from the family, is this what, as a family, we feel like we are most passionate about in the year, each year. And of course, with our family, there's been an organization that we've been donating to that deals with teen suicide. And so that's been one of them. And then we donate money in a very strategic way with donation in kind, and you can use those donor advised funds. So kind of goes back to the planning. But more importantly, we're trying to find ways where we can give our most precious resource, our time, and have them go down and tour the facility or maybe take part into it. And so some of those things that we're going to do are going to be in Ghana. I haven't done it yet in other places because I feel like has a closer connection to one's heart than the pocketbook does. And so once again, we're just pushing the envelope. We're trying to find things out there, but we're finding some great success in the lives of our clients and in our children. And you know what? Here's another thing I've been pondering. Grandparents out there, you may be feeling, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe you're like me, how am I going to connect with a grandchild, right? They're going to be into their iPhones or whatever, and I'm just like this old person that's just like boring as the hills.
Born in the 1900s.
And that's for the 1800s. And I just talk about family history. I don't know. What is it? I don't even want to talk to them. You talk about like dentures or whatever. I don't know. They have this mind block. Wouldn't it be great to find a way to have a connection, to train those hearts going both ways, children to fathers and vice versa, to mothers down to children? And so one way to do it, I believe, is through philanthropy. How cool would it be? And this is what we're encouraging clients to do. You grandparents out there, reach out, maybe have a little family setting, a reunion or something, and just tell your kids, hey, I'm going to give away $10,000, $20,000 this year. We are going to have a family contest. And so all you grandchildren, I would love for you to do some research. Find out an organization that's like a public charity that you're passionate about. And if you don't know about anything, I would encourage you to do this. Find one, and we're going to gather together. And I want you to do a little bit of a write-up or do a little pitch. We're going to get together, we'll get you a microphone or something and take you guys all to dinner. And then I want you to pitch this organization that you've learned about that now you hopefully are getting a little passionate about, or maybe you're not, but somebody else that you love is, and pitch it. And the person that pitches the best to grandma, kind of like Shark Tank, pitches the best to grandma and grandpa, we're going to write a check to that organization. And we're going to do it every year. Well, what could that potentially bring? It could bring a relationship a little bit better between grandparents and grandchildren. Gives them something fun to talk about. All right. And I realize this won't be like something you'll do necessarily every week, but maybe the grandkids love to talk about it. They'll talk about it. And you get to spend some of that money that you've got because now you're older. Because we got three resources: time, and we've got our health, and we've got money. And somehow we get those all mixed up because when we have a lot of money, we're old and don't have as much time. But when we're younger, we don't have any money, but we usually have health and time. We're just trying to find a way to let's borrow from each other and just find a better way to connect these dots. Because I think as a society, we're using 1.0 technology. We're like 2G or whatever you want to use the analogy would be. And we've got to start pushing our thinking further to find out ways to do it instead of just complaining. Complaining is getting us nowhere. It's just agitating the situation. It's just making us hate 1.0 that much more. And so I'm looking for ways like that to impart that, to find meaning. And we've had a few people like, oh yeah, we're totally going to do that. And we've seen some lights come on in the lights and eyes of these grandparents and like, okay, we're going to give this a whirl.
Yeah.
And so things like that.
I love that. Obviously, your career is a big part of your life.
Yeah.
And as we know in the world, finances or the lack thereof creates challenges in many people's lives that, again, we've already talked about. Challenges are going to come just because you're alive. They're going to come. But I love how you have taken the financial principles that you've been teaching and helping your clients with for a long time and be able to explain it to us here in a way that helps us see how we can use finances to, one, set us up for success and also connect generations. And that's intentionality. On the default program, on the default 1.0 system, 2.0 system, whatever it is, yeah, finances are still a struggle for a lot of people. And doesn't mean that just because your finances are in order doesn't mean you're a bajillionaire. By the same token, you can find a way to live in your means and have something more for the future, for endeavors, or for connection with your children and grandchildren. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Another way, just another example of how you can really be intentional with whatever lot you've been given and whatever you've created.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to do.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
That's true. It's not dull and boring. It's totally fun.
Yeah.
I highly encourage it.
Awesome. Rich, it's been a pleasure having you here. Is there anything else on your mind before we close out our conversation that you want to say?
I would just say, like I said early on, as we go through lives, just encourage everybody, just assume people are going through heartache and difficulties. We just giving more of the benefit of the doubt has just served me so well. And I know for others, it might seem maybe naive or you could get stepped on or whatever. And there might be some of those, right? There's going to be some players out there like that. There's always some bad apples that need to get straightened out, and hopefully they will. But yeah, just to seek the good. Let's just sprinkle more kindness. I believe that's the pixie dust that we all kind of tease with the magic wand. That's it. That's just love, kindness. And if we can just do that, be willing to say, you know what, I'm going to get those little promptings or get the little inspiration, text this person. Somebody's name comes to mind, like, I haven't even thought about that name in 20 years or in high school. You know what? Do something with that. I think that's maybe my invitation is just like, all right, I guess I'd better look into that. And if the worst thing you do is you look them up on Facebook or whatever, and you send them a message or maybe you have their email and just say, hey, you know what? Your name came to mind today. And I just wanted to send you this note to say, I'm thinking about you. And then something truthful. You're awesome. Or man, I just remember in high school, or you're so good at making macarons, or just whatever it is, something positive. If we just do that, I think we're going to be really surprised how those small things would just have a big impact. And so I guess I got to throw the invitation out there because I'm trying to do it in small ways. And if we forget to do it 1 or 2 days, guess what? There's tomorrow. Do it then. And just keep throwing it out there and let's just see what happens. So just have a little experiment in life. And it's my thought and impression that it's going to be very effective.
Well, thank you. I will take that on, and I'm sure our listeners will do the same. It's been a true joy having you here. Thanks for being here, Rich.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us on The Intentional Way. I'm Bryan Hatch, and it's been a true privilege to share this time with you. If today's episode has inspired you in any way, shape, or form, please subscribe, follow, and download our episodes. Your support not only helps us grow, it also enables us to bring more insightful conversations and exceptional guests right to you. Living intentionally begins with a single step, yours. So let's make the most of it. Until next time, seek intention by being completely present.